Welcome back. This is BL Stories for You. I'm an indie author dedicated to original BL storytelling. From high school drama to fantasy worlds, everything you hear is written by me. I'm so glad you're here for this journey. Let's begin.
Kaenar pulled back, his breath uneven, his mind racing. The shock didn't come from the kiss alone, it came from himself. From the terrifying realization that for a few heartbeats, he hadn't wanted to stop. He stared at Aarhiya as if seeing him for the first time, as if trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong, so quickly. That was when the door creaked open. Bona stepped inside, her mouth already forming a polite question, whether they were enjoying their meal. The words died instantly. Her eyes widened. Kaenar followed her gaze and his stomach dropped. He straightened at once, gently but firmly creating distance between himself and Aarhiya. Aarhiya, still tipsy, barely noticed. He swayed slightly, mumbling something under his breath, completely unaware of the scene he had just caused. "Oh," Bona began, then stopped herself, color rushing to her cheeks. I didn't see anything." She turned away far too quickly, fussing with an imaginary task, clearly mortified. Kaenar cleared his throat. "We're leaving," he said, his voice controlled, though strained. "Thank you for the meal." Before Bona could respond, Aarhiya tried to stand, and nearly collapsed. Kaenar cursed under his breath and caught him easily, lifting him into his arms without another thought. Bona looked up just in time to see it. Her eyes widened all over again. As Kaenar carried Aarhiya out through the back door, Bona stood frozen, one hand pressed to her chest. "I've never," she whispered to herself, "seen the Emperor like this before." Outside, the cool air did little to calm Kaenar's thoughts. He set Aarhiya carefully onto the horse, steadying him as the man leaned heavily against him. "This is bad," Kaenar muttered under his breath. Meanwhile, the palace hall was tense. Advisor Durian paced back and forth, his footsteps sharp against the marble floor. Nearby, Lenreya stood with her arms folded, her expression tightly controlled. The air between them was heavy, thick with irritation and expectation. "This is unacceptable," Durian snapped, finally coming to a halt. "Absolutely unacceptable. An emperor who abandons council meetings, ignores the elders and disappears from the palace, just to spend time with a maid whose background we don't even know." Lenreya said nothing, but her eyes darkened. "I truly believed," Durian continued bitterly, "that I still had some influence over him. That no matter how stubborn Kaenar was, he understood duty." He shook his head. "But this girl, she's turning everything upside down." Just then the massive palace doors creaked open. Both of them turned sharply and froze. Kaenar stepped inside. But he wasn't alone. He was carrying Aarhiya in his arms. For a moment the entire hall fell into complete silence. Durian's face drained of color. Lenreya's nails dug painfully into her palms. "What is the meaning of this?" Durian thundered as he strode forward. "Have you lost all sense of propriety? An emperor carrying a mere maid through the palace like this? This is sacrilege." As Kaenar approached, the faint scent of alcohol reached them. Durian recoiled in disgust. "She drank?" he barked. "She dared to get drunk in your presence?" That was when Kaenar's patience finally snapped. "Oh, stop being so dramatic," he said flatly. He turned to the servants nearby. "Take her to her quarters. Make sure she's safe." The maids hesitated for only a second before bowing. They carefully took Aarhiya from his arms. She stirred slightly, murmuring something incoherent, before being led away down the corridor. Only when they were gone did Kaenar turn back. His gaze was cold. "You both need to stop stressing me," he said evenly. "I will attend court. I will deal with the elders. But listen carefully, do not touch Lenreya." Durian stiffened. "She is important," Kaenar continued, his voice dropping. "Far more important than you realize. The fate of this kingdom may very well rest in her hands." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving the hall behind in stunned silence. Lenreya was the first to speak. "That wasn't him," she said quietly. "Kaenar isn't acting like himself. This sudden attachment, it's unnatural. He could be under some kind of spell." Durian's jaw tightened. "Then you know what must be done," he said grimly. "Do whatever it takes to ensure the Emperor and that person do not spend time together." Lenreya looked up sharply. "If they grow closer," Durian continued, his voice low with fear, I'm afraid the Emperor will fall in love, and then the heart that has been hardened all these years may choose her as his Empress. The words hung in the air like a warning. That night, Kaenar returned to his chambers, but rest did not come easily. He removed his outer robe, sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor. Yet all he could see was Aarhiya's face. The kiss replayed in his mind, again and again, uninvited, unsettling. He frowned to himself. It made no sense. He had never reacted this way before. Never lost control like that. Kaenar had concubines. Several of them. Women chosen for him because of politics, alliances, powerful families. Lenreya, Mina. With them everything had been duty, obligation, something to endure. The kisses he shared with them were cold and mechanical, meant only to fulfill expectations, to produce an heir if necessary. As for the rest of the women in his court, he treated them like furniture, present, useful, emotionally invisible. He trusted none of them. He had seen ambition ruin kingdoms. He had watched wives turn against their husbands under the influence of their families. They hungered for crowns and influence, and he refused to hand his throne to someone who might one day turn against him. That was why, long ago, he had sealed his own energy with magic, ensuring no child would come from unions he did not choose. And yet, tonight something had shifted. For the first time in years he felt his energy stir. Not from duty, not from pressure, from desire. The realization unsettled him more than any battlefield ever had. Kaenar clenched his jaw and shook his head sharply. Enough, he muttered to himself. Lenreya was a stranger. Nothing more. Whatever he felt had to be confusion, brought on by too much time together, exhaustion, alcohol, and that cursed flute. Yes, that was all it was. With that thought, he lay down, forcing his eyes shut. And still, when sleep finally claimed him, it wasn't silence that followed. It was the soft, lingering sound of Aarhiya's flute. Elsewhere in the palace, Aarhiya slept in his own chambers. Or at least, his body did. His mind was anything but calm. In his dreams he was back at the inn. Back in Kaenar's arms. He could feel the warmth of the Emperor's presence. The closeness, the way his chest tightened when their lips met. The sensation sent heat rushing through him, unfamiliar and overwhelming. Then, suddenly his eyes flew open. Aarhiya sat up, breathing a little too fast. A dream? He whispered. He pressed a hand to his chest. His heart was still racing. The warmth was still there, stubborn, real, refusing to fade. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. He couldn't clearly remember what had happened after the wine. The night felt broken, fragmented, like pieces were missing in between. Had it really been just a dream? He groaned softly and rubbed his face. Get a grip, he scolded himself under his breath. You promised yourself. He had sworn never to be ruled by his heir nature, never to let desire cloud his judgment, and certainly never to fall for a man, least of all Emperor Kaenar. Yet no matter how hard he tried to push the feeling away, the warmth in his chest refused to disappear. Just then the door flew open without warning. Aarhiya barely had time to react before Lenreya strode in, with Mina right behind her. Their expressions were sharp and deliberate, faces worn by people who hadn't come to talk but to assert power. Lenreya's eyes swept across the room, then landed on Aarhiya like a blade. Stand up, she ordered coldly, and pay your respects. Aarhiya's chest tightened. For a brief moment pride surged through him. Him, the crown prince of Luminar, bowing to a mere concubine. The humiliation burned deep, nearly making his hands tremble. But reality pulled him back just in time. Here he was Lenreya. A servant. A nobody. Swallowing hard, Aarhiya rose to his feet and bowed his head obediently. Lenreya's lips curled into a slow, satisfied sneer. So you do understand your place, she said. Good. Don't ever forget it. She began to walk closer, her steps unhurried, predatory. You are a servant in this palace, she continued calmly. And servants work. They earn their meals. They earn the roof over their heads. She stopped directly in front of him. Just because the Emperor seems mildly amused by you doesn't mean you're special, Lenreya said coolly. It doesn't mean you're above the others. Behind her, Mina scoffed, arms crossed. Some people forget themselves far too quickly. Lenreya snapped her fingers. You will clean the palace grounds, she said. All of it. Every corridor. Every courtyard. I don't want to see a single speck of dust. Aarhiya's eyes widened slightly, but he remained silent. And if I find even one area neglected, Lenreya continued smoothly, you will receive 100 strokes of the whip. Mina smiled cruelly. And we won't hold back. Lenreya leaned in closer. If you can't keep up, she whispered, then leave the palace, and never return. Aarhiya lowered his gaze, his jaw clenched tight. If I could leave I would, he thought bitterly. But Nello is still here. As long as Kaenar held Nello, walking away was not an option. From the corner of the room, Toda stepped forward nervously. My lady, she said softly, the palace grounds are far too large for one person. She only just arrived. Perhaps she could start with something smaller. Silence. Lenreya snapped, spinning toward her. Her eyes blazed. Mind your place, old woman, she hissed. Or do you wish to join her? Age will not spare you from punishment. Toda froze. Her mouth closed instantly. She lowered her head and stepped back without another word. Lenreya turned back to Aarhiya. You have 2 hours, she said coolly. After that I'll come and inspect your work. With that she turned on her heel. Mina followed, still smirking as the rest of their maids filed out behind them. The door slammed shut, leaving the room heavy with silence. Toda finally let out a shaky breath. You're in serious trouble, she whispered. Lenreya is cruel, but I've never seen her this cruel with anyone before. She studied Aarhiya carefully. She feels threatened, Toda continued. I think she's afraid the Emperor might be developing feelings for you. What? No. Aarhiya replied instantly, far too quickly. His face flushed, his voice rising with panic. That's impossible. Absolutely impossible. Toda frowned, tilting her head slightly. Then why do you look so flustered? Aarhiya had no answer for that. Aarhiya stood in the long palace passageway, broom in hand, staring down the endless stretch of polished stone before him. The corridor seemed to go on forever. He exhaled slowly, already feeling exhausted just looking at it. 2 hours, Lenreya had said. 2 hours to clean something that appeared to have no end. He shook his head, muttering under his breath. He had to control his temper. He couldn't let his rebellious side show, not now. That would only cause him bigger problems. He had never cleaned a day in his life, yet somehow today would be his first. Just as he was about to start, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the hall. Not one pair. Many. Aarhiya looked up and froze. Kaenar was walking toward him, dressed in full imperial attire, his presence commanding even before he spoke a single word. Officials followed behind him, heads slightly bowed, their robes whispering against the stone floor. He was on his way to court. Aarhiya's breath caught. For a moment he forgot where he was. Forgot the broom in his hand. Forgot the humiliation of earlier. All he could see was Kaenar. The way he carried himself, as though the world naturally bent around him. The sharp line of his jaw. The calm authority in his stride. He's unfairly beautiful, Aarhiya thought, unable to look away. And then, the memory struck. Warm lips. Sudden closeness. The taste of wine. The way his heart had pounded. Aarhiya's grip tightened around the broom. The kiss. His thoughts spiraled. At the same time, Kaenar noticed him. The Emperor's steps faltered, just slightly but enough. His shoulders stiffened. Without looking directly at Aarhiya, he turned his face away. A faint flush crept up his neck as he pretended not to see him at all, walking past as though the corridor were empty. Aarhiya blinked, stunned. Did he just avoid me? He watched Kaenar disappear down the hall, his thoughts racing. Did I really kiss him, or was it just the wine? Later that morning, the court was in session. The elders sat in their seats, robes heavy with authority and entitlement. Kaenar sat at the head of the hall, his expression unreadable as they bowed deeply. We are grateful that your majesty has finally honored us with your presence, one elder said smoothly. Kaenar said nothing. He waited. Another elder cleared his throat. We have come to a decision. Due to the increasing difficulty of acquiring produce from neighboring kingdoms, we believe it is necessary to impose additional taxes on the people. Out in the corridor, Aarhiya scrubbed the floor near the open doors, listening despite himself. Kaenar's eyes darkened. So this, he said coldly, is why you summoned me. The elders exchanged glances. It is for the good of the kingdom. For your pockets, Kaenar snapped. The hall fell silent. You already drained the people dry, he continued, his voice tight with restrained fury. And you want more? While they starve. The elders bristled. Your Majesty, you must understand. I understand perfectly, Kaenar cut in. You don't care about Umbreth. You don't care that the sun hasn't touched our land in centuries. And you certainly don't care about finding a cure for this dying kingdom. He stepped forward. All you care about is enriching yourselves. Advisor Durian tried to interject, but Kaenar raised a hand. No, he said flatly. I refuse your ridiculous request. And that decision is final. Gasps echoed through the hall. Kaenar turned to leave, but suddenly one elder stood. You should never have been king, the man spat. Your uncle was the rightful ruler. You are arrogant, forgetting that we placed you on that throne despite your demon blood. The air shifted instantly. Kaenar stopped. Slowly he turned back. His eyes burned red as he removed his crown. Fear rippled through the hall as an unseen force seized the elder's neck, lifting him off the ground. The man clawed helplessly, gasping as his face drained of color. You supported me, Kaenar said quietly, dangerously, because you believed I would be your puppet. His grip tightened. You were wrong. He released the man who collapsed to the floor in a coughing heap. Kaenar swept his gaze across the hall. Test me again, he warned, and you won't live to regret it. With that, he stormed out alone. Aarhiya watched him pass, his chest tight with fear and worry. Kaenar had been terrifying, yet without thinking, Aarhiya dropped the broom and followed. Your Majesty, he called softly. No response. They moved deeper into the palace, toward the darker corridors near the Emperor's chambers. The air grew heavy. Tense. Suddenly, Kaenar stopped. He spun around and slammed Aarhiya against the wall, one arm braced beside his head. How dare you, Kaenar hissed. You have no shame. No remorse at all, after what you did last night. Aarhiya's eyes widened. What are you talking about? And then it hit him. The memory hadn't been a dream. He had kissed Kaenar. The realization crashed over him like a wave. The world seemed to hold its breath. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more episodes.